What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video, and today I thought we would talk about some of the things that I hate or dislike about the TRX. Now that I've owned it for about 3 months, I think I've got a decent thought on what I like, dislike, would change. And now some of these things could be fixed with spending more money and getting a higher option package, but I'll kind of explain as we get into this. And now none of these are in any specific first, second, third, fourth order. They're just me kind of rambling on about what I dislike about the truck. So I guess first things first is bump stops. Now the truck does have normal bump stops that you'd find on any other Ram or any vehicle for that matter, but this is supposed to be the hardcore desert truck off-roader, supposed to be able to go out and jump the thing, and it still just has the normal polyurethane or rubber foam bump stops that you'd find on any other vehicle. Now if you look at a brand new Jeep Gladiator Mojave and crawl under that, you will find in the front they are using the air bump stops, which are a really cool desert truck feature that is on those Gladiators. It would have been really nice if Ram put the air bump stops on either the front or the rear of the truck, so it at least would have had something already to begin with that would have made it even more of a cool desert off-road truck. But that at least leaves something for the aftermarket to come up with, like you find with the Ford Raptors. You can buy typically the rear bump stop kits that have really cool brackets and air bump stops that you install on the truck and work even better off-road. So that's kind of the first thing that I wish it had, but it doesn't have, but eventually may want to get on this truck. Now the second thing that is kind of my fault, but kind of not my fault, is the fact that I ordered a level 1 group TRX. And you may be wondering, okay, what's the difference? There's level 1, there's level 2, there's a base truck. And as you increase in the levels, you get more and more features. Now, I was trying to build a cost-effective TRX, if you will, and I only got the level 1 because you still got a lot of nice things: heated seats, heated steering wheel, leather, suede, all of the stuff that makes a expensive truck look nice inside. But the big thing that is missing on mine, and we'll go look here, this truck is missing the passive entry button. And if you aren't familiar with that system, it's on most new vehicles. It's where you can walk up to the vehicle, put your hand on the door handle, it unlocks because it senses the key in your pocket. When you leave the vehicle, you can touch the door handle or the button on the door handle and it locks. Now with a Ram TRX, you are going to be spending $70,000+ for a base model truck, and you do not get passive entry, which seems outrageous. You could spend half the money, you could spend $40,000 and get a Bighorn Ram and have passive entry standard, which again, that doesn't make any sense. You're spending twice the money and don't get the standard feature. The wife's $30,000 Toyota Prius has passive entry, but Ram couldn't put it on their big beast off-road truck unless you ordered the level 2 option group, which costs an additional almost $5,000 on top of the price of this truck. So you may be saying, well, why are you complaining? You should have just ordered the level 2 truck. But if we go look at a new Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, that also does not come with passive entry, but it is only a $645 option from the factory to add passive entry to any Jeep Wrangler order. So if Ram would have just had one more option for these base model and level 1 trucks and been able to add passive entry to the truck for a additional $645, or heck, I would have even paid $1,000 to have the factory option on the truck, I would have done it. But it just seems ridiculous that you would have had to add another $5,000 onto the price of the already expensive trucks to get passive entry. And I guess the third thing we will get into is how wide the truck is. Now you may be saying, yeah, you bought the big wide off-road truck, and I love the look, I love the stance, but one issue that I found is parking. The truck almost does not fit in a small, tight parking space. If you're going out to eat to a restaurant somewhere, it is extremely wide. It hangs over the lines and you kind of look like you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to park. And me being super conscious about getting door dings and worrying about my vehicle, that is something that I'm worried about, is getting door dings. So I find myself trying to park even further out than I normally would because the truck is so wide. But again, it's kind of hard to hate something that looks that cool and wide with the big wide body flares on the side. All right, and I guess another kind of truck, desert truck related thing is the squat or payload of the truck. Now, obviously I knew going into this, you know, Ford Raptors and these TRXs are not built to haul multiple tons of weight and tow a whole bunch, but obviously it still needed to do it because this is the only truck that I have. But on paper, the payload rating of this truck and my previous half ton are very, very similar on paper. But when I hooked up the trailer for the first time, I'll kind of show you here, the truck squatted outrageously bad, looked pretty crazy. And I then needed to move the car back on the trailer a little bit and get rid of some of that tongue weight pushing down on the trailer. Now there's things you can do to fix this. You can throw a weight distributing hitch on it. You can, you know, make sure you change your load. There's a few things you can do, but it just seems really, really excessive that the truck squats that much. And again, I understand it's a desert truck. It's got soft, supple suspension meant to go out and jump with, but it seems kind of crazy that the payload numbers are very, very similar to my previous truck and it squats this much more. Another thing kind of on that same payload squat thing is the TRX lean, as it's called on the forums. These trucks have about a 3/4 to 1 inch lean to the driver's side. And that is mostly due to the fact the fuel tank is on the left or driver's side of the vehicle. And in theory, Ram could have added maybe a little bit stiffer or higher spring rate spring to that left rear side to help lift that side up and have the truck a little bit more level, just so it looks a little more pleasing to the eye when you're going down the road or stop, because it is pretty noticeable. Now, I'm probably not going to address anything with mine. I don't really want to mess with the suspension because I do want to use this thing off-road, go out, jump it, do all those things that it's meant to do. So if I start going, adding spacers, doing things like that, it's probably not going to be beneficial when I actually do use the truck off-road. So I won't address it. It's just something that kind of is annoying when you're really specific about your vehicles and want them to look right and it's leaning off to the side. But you get it. It's a soft desert truck suspension. That's what it's gonna do. And guys, last but least, I guess I'm gonna get into the fact the aftermarket support has been kind of slowish on these trucks. Now, I understand they've just been out for a short amount of time, but with new Wranglers, you know, you've got the aftermarket support already building parts before the Jeeps were even out. Obviously, Raptors have been out for a long time, so there's a huge aftermarket support and following with these trucks. And there are already a few bumpers out for these trucks, but I'm just worried that we may not see for a really, really long time any of the suspension parts and pieces like the Raptor guys have. Now, like I said, the Raptors have been out for a long time, so it's understandable that the parts and pieces are already out there in the marketplace. But I just worry that those parts may never get to the TRXs because you'll have a lot smaller possible demographic buying these trucks and driving these trucks, and the demand for hardcore off-road desert suspension may not be as aggressive as it was on the first and second gen and now third gen Raptors. But only time will tell. Hopefully we'll get some cool bump stop kits, some more cool bumper options. I really would like a really small tube, kind of pro style, pre-runner style bumper for the front of this truck. Ideally it to be less weight than the big heavy plate steel bumpers. Who knows, we'll see what happens, but I love the truck as it is right now, and it would be cool if there was some more options for those aftermarket things. So guys, as you could tell, there's really not huge things that I have found that I've hated with this truck in the 3 months of ownership. They're all pretty piddly and pretty much either self-induced by not buying a more expensive package, or they are things that just come with the territory of owning a soft, squishy suspension desert truck. But I had to figure out something to complain about with my new vehicle purchase, because that's what you do. You buy something and you need to find things to complain about. So that's what we did here today. Obviously, there are many, many more reasons why I do like this truck that we'll have to get into with the next video on this thing. But guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.